I vividly remember learning this one principle in kinesiology class, and it changed the way that I view food forever, and I hope it does the same for you. So when we think about protein, and any food for that matter, it's relevant to also think of what is that thing made of. For example, protein is essentially a string of amino acids, or strings of amino acids. So you may have heard that before, that amino acids are the building blocks of protein. And what that means is that at a molecular level, protein is comprised of amino acids, which is very, very, very relevant to anyone who wants to get toned. So then if we shift to biochemistry class, and I'm not going to go into the depths, but when we look at what are those molecules, like what is the amino acid comprised of? Well, there's definitely one molecule that indicates which amino acid it is, and there's another molecule which is a nitrogen molecule, and that is very relevant. So why this matters is because nitrogen levels being raised above a certain threshold is what allows for muscle protein synthesis, and muscle protein synthesis is gold for you wanting to get toned. I can't drill that in enough. I'm very passionate about it, obviously. So essentially what it means, muscle protein synthesis, is we're using the protein we're consuming and applying it to the muscle that you've broken down and damaged in the gym, which is what you should be doing if you're challenging yourself, and is what I need you to be doing if you want toned arms. You need to be challenging yourself in the gym with the weight that you're using, with how many reps you're doing, etc. We have to create micro tears in the muscle fibers so muscle protein synthesis can do its thing and those muscles can grow back bigger and stronger. Maybe rewind and rewatch that part, because that is the most important thing that you can learn, remember, and apply when it comes to eating and exercising to create a toned look. Again, we have to create micro tears in the muscle fibers and then eat to support repair outside of the gym, in addition to resting and sleeping and all of that good stuff. So we have to allow that recovery period for us to be able to gain muscle and ultimately long-term decrease fat and create that toned look. So I hope that is all making sense right now. So all in all, raising nitrogen levels in the blood allows for muscle protein synthesis to turn on and do its thing. So if we don't eat, this is where this applies. If we don't eat anything before the gym, our nitrogen levels are down. And let me show you. So this is like a timeline, okay? And before the gym, if we're not eating anything, our nitrogen levels could be, they're likely down here, okay? Especially in the morning, we haven't eaten anything. Where this is our threshold, okay? So we're just gonna put thresh. And we need our nitrogen levels to surpass this threshold in order to allow muscle protein synthesis to occur. So we wanna be up here. So the muscle protein synthesis process that we just talked about, the ability to apply our food more or less, to grow back bigger and stronger, to help us gain muscle and lose fat and look toned, that happens when we're anywhere above this threshold, when our nitrogen levels are above this threshold. So what you may have been doing is eating nothing or eating a little bit of carb, not a protein, and your levels are down here. And then you do damage in the gym. You know, now we're on this timeline, you're working out, right? Now we're like along this process, you're working out, and your levels are still down here. So you're creating muscle tears. Say this point is when you're in the gym creating micro tears in your muscle fibers. And while that's happening, your nitrogen levels, because you didn't eat anything before the gym, you didn't eat a protein source specifically before the gym, so that your nitrogen, like blood nitrogen could be swimming around in your bloodstream doing its thing or existing there, is still down here. So then again, on our timeline, you finally eat a protein source. So we're here now. Now we're swimming along our timeline. You finally eat a protein source, and now it's been like, I don't know, say 30 minutes after your workout. Eventually we need to digest it, right? They slowly come up here now, your nitrogen levels, once you've eaten and digested, right? So this entire time period where you have worked out in the gym, created micro tears in your muscle fibers, is without, this is not optimized, this means that your nitrogen levels have been down here this entire time, and now they're eventually coming back up here where muscle protein synthesis can happen. So because we have a deadline, we have a wedding date, we need toned arms, okay, before a deadline, we are going to fix this. We're going to optimize this time period so you make the most out of your workouts and the effort that you're putting in. You get the best bang for your buck out of the effort that you're putting in the gym. To clear the whiteboard, it was getting pretty messy over here. So what we're going to do instead, and what I highly recommend, and I want you to promise me that you'll do this, okay, is you're going to eat a protein source before your workout, before the gym, so that when you create those micro tears, boom, you're ready, okay? So now what that looks like on, this is our threshold and also time, I don't know, math stuff. So this is our threshold of nitrogen and like time as it's passing, whatever. So your nitrogen levels are here, right? You woke up, you eat something, you digest it, your nitrogen levels are now up here, okay? Yay! Now you go to the gym. This is going to be, this just line is going to be you go to the gym, okay? You create micro tears in your muscle fibers that need muscle protein synthesis to occur to grow back bigger and stronger. And when you're there, you're already primed, baby, because your nitrogen levels are already here, right? They're meeting the moment. They're meeting the moment. And so this, now that they're here, you're creating that, and they're going to slowly dip, right? Okay, so time goes on, you're in the gym, you're doing your thing. Let's say this entire time block is while you're in the gym. I don't know, 45 minutes, whatever. Your nitrogen levels naturally, will start to wean off. They'll start to wean down. And then you have a protein shake on your way home from the gym, and they're weaning down here, and you go, boom! They go right back up. So this is just depicting when you are strategic about when you are eating what. That's how you optimize what's going on in your body and get better results from the effort that you're putting in. So that's what I want you to promise me, right? Is we understand now, we're down here, we haven't eaten any protein, maybe it's the morning. You eat a protein source, you have breakfast, whatever. Comes up here, you go to the gym, you're already primed for success. And then they start weaning off after the gym, and you go, I'm not letting that happen. You have another protein source, okay? And then, this goes into the weeds a little bit, but every 3 to 4 hours, this is going to keep happening, right? Protein source. Protein source. So I hope this is connecting the dots as to what I mean so often about there are effective ways to eat and exercise for your goals. So you bought this program and you already made the investment. So I want you to promise me that you're going to have a protein source before and after the gym, no exceptions. This is my handshake. Pinky promise. And if you work out early in the morning, this can even be something small, okay? Like half a protein bar or half a protein shake on your way to the gym. It doesn't need to be like a freaking omelet, okay? It can be something small. Just get it in your system before you go. One other thing I want to note is that liquid, so drinking something will hit your system faster. So what I personally do is I'll have a protein and carb meal 1 to 2 hours before the gym, and then I'll have a protein shake immediately after the gym. So I'll pack it, it's ready to go. And not only does that process save me from being a hangry bitch before I eat next, but it's also ideal, obviously, for my fitness goals of continuing to be a lean toned baddie. So then I'll go home, right? I have my protein shake, I'll shower, I'll do whatever I need, and then I'll make another meal of a protein and carbs. So that's what I personally do. It's a great process when we're talking about how to optimize for what you're eating. So just one more time through, I eat a protein and carb source meal. I don't work out first thing in the morning, so this is just my process 1 to 2 hours before I go to the gym, right? Like it's digesting, and this time period is when it's raising because I need some digestion time to break apart those molecules, right? Then my levels are above threshold, hopefully. And then I'll have a protein shake immediately after the gym, and then go home, do my thing. Maybe like 45 minutes, an hour later, I have another meal of a protein and a carb. So next, let's talk about carbs, everyone's favorite. And similarly, how we just looked at the components of protein, we need to look at the components of carbs. So the components of carbs, any carbohydrates, hear me, any carbohydrates are glucose molecules, okay? I mean fruit, you guys. I mean vegetables, you guys. I mean your sweet potato. I mean your rice. They break down to glucose molecules. Period. And that is how we start stripping this idea that carbs are good or bad or blah, blah. It's glucose. So that is like first concept. Our brains use glucose. Our muscles use glucose. We need glucose. And that is why I am a broken record about not cutting out carbs. It's because glucose is our fuel source. So unlike someone who is truly in a ketogenic state, meaning they're barely eating carbs, those people, they run on ketones, okay? This is like a whole other thing, ketones, glucose. We'll get into only things that matter right now. So listen to me. Issues happen when you deprive your body of its fuel source for prolonged periods of time. That is why I should reel back on this a little bit, because I'm gonna get a little testy. That is why when we experience brain fog, when we experience irregular digestion, a lot of things or symptoms these days that women, we don't know any better, right? There's so much misinformation online. We're pegging as like hormonal issues or some other issue. Those symptoms that you may be experiencing is actually a result of inconsistent carbohydrate intake, because I'm literally getting chills. That's how passionate I am about this. That like our body needs glucose. We as women need glucose. Cut the fasting, cut it out. Just cut it out. Our brain and our body need it. And so now that I am getting off my horse about how we need glucose, let's talk about how we're going to apply that to what we've been talking about. So there are different types of carbs depending on how many glucose molecules are strung together. So what you need to know is simple carbs like fruit is a quick and fast energy source, because honestly, like, let me get rid of this. This is a little in the weeds, but because fruit is just two glucose molecules bound together, okay? It's a disaccharide, di meaning two. So because there's only two glucose molecules strung together in something like a fruit, there's only one bond for us to digest here, break apart, and now glucose is swimming around in our bloodstream. So that is what I mean by it's a quick source of energy. It's just simply quicker to digest, okay? So that's fruit. Then you have things like complex carbohydrates, which are rice, bread, pasta. Those are polysaccharides. And again, you don't need to know this, but I think it helps to understand. Polysaccharides are poly meaning many, means many glucose molecules strung together, okay? And so when we talk about complex carbs take longer to digest. They provide, this is like the basic way to talk about it, is like they provide energy over time, okay? Why is that? It's because we have multiple bonds to break here. That takes time. And then these glucose molecules are swimming around in our bloodstream. So as you can see, carbs are carbs. It just based on what you want to do with it depends on which one you would choose to consume. And that simple carb, just to reiterate it, that's why when someone is feeling faint in the doctor's office, they give them apple juice, because it's a simple carb, okay? It can break down really fast, quick source of energy, quick glucose in the body. So all of that said, when we work out, we use glucose, quite a bit of it actually. So we've covered protein pre and post workout. Now let's take that to the next level, and we'll cover when we're having carbs pre and post workout as well. So I'd like for you to have a carb with your protein source that you're having before the gym, and a carb with your protein source when you're having it after the gym as well. What that will do for you is you give your body the energy it needs to replenish after you've spent energy in the gym. And I know that's a little bit more advanced, and if you're already eating in this fashion, something to take things up one more notch. Again, if you're already eating a carb and a protein before the gym, you're already eating a carb and a protein after the gym, to take it one more notch up, make this a little bit more advanced as far as your pre and post nutrition. There's 3 macronutrients: protein, carb, and fat. Fat slows digestion. It slows down. Yeah, that's pretty much what you need to know. That being said, when we are in this timeline, right, of muscle protein synthesis, our threshold, we don't want to slow digestion down. We don't. That's not the goal right then and there. So we would not want to have a fat source, fats being olive oil, avocado, etc., cheese. We wouldn't want to have a fat source pre and post workout, because we want to optimize this time period and we don't want to slow down the digestion. We don't want to slow down those molecules getting into our bloodstream. But again, if you are just starting out with these concepts, don't worry about that. I'd rather you just have a protein pre and post workout and like really hone in on that habit for now. So we have covered so much, but takeaways, right? Protein source pre and post workout, no exceptions. Ideally, a protein and a carb source pre and post workout. And once you've nailed those 2, you'd have no fat source in either of those meals. So I've listed some examples of pre and post workout meals below. Please let me know if you have questions.